What are the longest standing world records in powerlifting in the IPF? That's exactly what we're going to look at in this video. I thought with Sheffield coming up, not too far away now, this is going to be the perfect opportunity to dive into what the longest standing world records are in the IPF, given that Sheffield is all about breaking IPF world records, not just in total, but also in other lifts. Going straight into it. Number 10 is Chance Mitchell. Chance Mitchell broke the 93 deadlift world record at 373.5 at IPF Worlds in 2022. That record has stood for 942 days now. Now, that might seem, wow, how is that on the list? It's only in 2022. Well, that just shows how recent a lot of these world records have been set at. In fact, these records that I'm going to show in this video are the only open records in tested raw powerlifting in the IPF that have stood pre-2023. Every other world record that you do not see on this list for squat, bench, deadlift, and total was set 2023 or 2024. And so it shows you how powerlifting is really developing so quickly. But that is equal 10th. Equal 10th with that was Ilyas Bukhalim's bench press world record, which was also set at 2022 IPF Worlds, 291.5 kilograms, 942 days. Now, with each of these records, I'm also going to mention how much longer I think they're going to stand for. And Chance Mitchell's deadlift, I mean, there's a few 93s that are getting sort of close. Cars Pierce from Griffith has a massive deadlift. Petrie also is around, he's also 800 plus pound deadlifter, so he's not far off. But yeah, there's not too many 93s who could beat that. I think there's another US 93, Demetrius Smith or something, that pulled 375 at a PA meet. So he's a potential threat to that. As far as this bench press from Ilyas Bukhalim, the closest person to this is Jesus Olivares, whose best bench, I believe, is 272.5 in competition and 280 in training. So Jesus is actually not far off this, which is kind of wild considering that he also has the IPF squat record and used to have the IPF deadlift record. Into number 9. Number 9 is Rene Chaki with his bench press. Set the 105 bench press world record at 233.5. This was done at Junior Europeans in 2021. So it stood for 1,127 days. And since he set this, Anatoly Novopesmeny has attempted it. I believe once, maybe even twice, attempted 234, and he's missed. He's missed both times. Anatoly is probably the closest 105 to getting this, I think. I mean, Bob Matthews is now 120, but I mean, he benched 240 at 105 point something. So if Bob Matthews wanted to go down to 105, another reason why Bob Matthews not doing Sheffield is one of the biggest fumbles ever. Like, why would you not do Sheffield? This would have been easy money for him, this world record, as well as the total world record potentially as well. But nevertheless, we move on. That's number 9. I think Anatoly is probably the closest person to be able to beat this. Number 8, Sergey Fedosienko squat. So he set the 59 kilo squat world record at 230 kilos at 2021 Worlds. It's stood for almost 1,200 days now. This is at the time of recording, by the way, so 3rd of January 2025. And Fedo, this is not the first time, or sorry, not the last time you'll see him on this list. Bit of a spoiler alert, more Fedo records to be found on this list. But yeah, I mean, Wasker's done 220 something, I believe. So Wasker's close, and he could potentially take a run at this record at Sheffield if he feels like it's there. But it will be interesting to see when Fedo comes back. I believe he squatted 225 at Asians just recently in December. So presumably he's not far off his best when it comes to squatting. So we'll see if he's able to extend that, or if Wasker can potentially break it at Sheffield. Number 7, Owen Hubbard's bench press. Now, this is a bit of a controversial one. So he set the 83 kilo bench press world record at a massive 218.5 at Euros in 2019. So it stood for ages, right? And the controversy here is this is before they changed the bench press rules, right? So in 2022, they changed the bench press rules so that you, number one, couldn't put your feet up on the bench press to set up, like Owen Hubbard's doing there, and you had to hit elbow depth, right? So your elbow had to be below or in line with the top of your shoulder joint, I believe, or front of your shoulder joint. So yeah, Owen Hubbard was famous for not only having a crazy bench press, but for having this crazy exorcist-like setup where he would go and put his arch all the way back and put his nose on the bench, like you see in that top photo. That's him setting up for his world record bench. However, the bottom photo is him actually pressing the world record bench, and you can see that he's not really far off on elbow depth. Like, maybe he's a bit higher on the left than he is on the right, but I definitely think that some referees and juries would give him white lights on that. And I've seen bench presses passed since the elbow depth rule came into place that look similar to this or potentially even worse than this. So his elbow depth wasn't actually too bad. It's just obviously the setup, which he couldn't do. And since 2022, when the new bench press rules came in, his bench press has dropped by about 15 to 20 kilos. So he has taken a bit of a significant hit. Again, part of that could just be he's past his prime, considering he's been at the top around 2016 to 2019 period. But yes, Owen Hubbard, number 7, with his bench press. There isn't an 83 kilo lifter who's close to this, in my opinion. I mean, I know Ross hit 210 in training, but his bench press notoriously drops all the way down to 190 come competition day for the last few years. And out of the top 83s now, I'm trying to think if there's anyone who is knocking on the door of this record. I don't believe there is. I know Durans isn't really close. Tim's not close. Ade is not close. Joey B might be the closest because he's at 205, I think. Delaney Wallace is also 200 plus. He's got a big bench. I know Sean Noriega has a huge bench, but his elbow depth is like super dodge. So I've not a lot of faith in that passing at IPF Worlds if he even makes it there. So yeah, this world record I think is still going to stand for a while yet. Number 6, Derek Nij. I don't know how to pronounce their last name. But yes, his deadlift. 59 kilo deadlift world record at 275 kilos. Set at IPF Worlds in 2019. He did this as a junior, which I forgot to mention this, but Rene Chaki, who was number 9 on this list, the 105 kilo bench press world record, he also did that as a junior. So I should point out the ones that were juniors because that's also super impressive. So yes, Derek Nij is the second junior on this list. Stood for over 5 years now, 59 kilogram deadlift world record, took it off Fedosienko. 275 kilos is a crazy lift at 59. And yeah, I don't think, Waska did pull, so Waska is close to the deadlift world record actually. He pulled 275.5 in training, and he said before that based on how his Sheffield day turns out, he's either going to load up his final deadlift to go for the total world record or to go for the deadlift world record. Probably not both, right? Because he would just put whatever number he needs for the total world record. If he thinks that's out of reach, we'll go deadlift world record. But yeah, I anticipate Waska is going to take a crack at this come Sheffield, 275.5, and I think he has a decent chance of getting it as well. Number 5, Eddie Berglund's bench press. Now, this is probably more controversial than Owen Hubbard's is because this is like the quintessential 2-inch range of motion that made powerlifting bench presses a laughingstock pre-elbow depth rule change. Eddie Berglund was probably the most notorious small range of motion mean bench presser. I mean, through no fault of his own, really. Like, the guy's just built in such a way where he's able to create a massive arch, has a short wingspan, and you can see there, that top photo is when he has a bar in his chest. You can see how his elbows are damn near almost locked out in that position, which is crazy. And then the bottom photo is when he locked out his world record bench press, and you can see how the bar did not travel a whole lot. He still benched a crazy 213.5 kilos at 66, which is absolutely insane. That's over a 3 times body weight bench press, which is nuts. And yeah, I don't really see anyone close to this. I mean, I think Shell has the best chance now. He's dropping to 66 for Sheffield. I don't think this is in range for him, though. I think in training, he's still been able to bench 200 or a bit more than 200 during his cut, but his numbers are going down. And yeah, come Sheffield, I think he would be happy with a 200 kilo bench. I don't think he'll get necessarily really close to this. And yes, with the elbow depth rule change, I mean, that top photo definitely will not pass for Eddie Berglund. Although Eddie Berglund, since the elbow depth rule change, has still set a 74 kilo bench press world record because he's moved up a weight class and he's changed his technique. He's sinking on his chest more to get the elbow depth. He still can't help that he's built in such a way that his range of motion is super small, though. But yes, this is a very impressive bench press world record that I think is going to stand for a crazy long time, unless Shell somehow manages to add upper body strength when he went down a weight class. Number 4, Dennis Cornelius' squat. So he set the 120 kilo squat world record at 386 kilos at 2017 Worlds. Now, that record has stood since then, and as far as 120s go now, again, it's not super close. I'm trying to think what Bob is. I think Bob has doubled 800 pounds, which is what, 360 something. So he's potentially the closest, but that's still quite a ways to go from like 360s, 370 to 386. Des Cornelius was just such a good squatter. So yeah, that record has stood for a long time, and I still think it's going to stand unless Bob makes huge gains. Oh, and of course until Rondell comes in, because Rondell has squatted, I believe, 400 or just below 400. So when Rondell finally comes to the IPF, which hopefully is this year, if not next year, then we will see him finally break this long-standing record. Okay, now from here, the top 3 are actually all tied. So they're actually all equal first, because all of these 3 world records were set at 2016 Worlds. So they've all stood since the 19th of June 2016 for 3,120 days. First one I'm going to go through is Sergey Fedosienko's bench press. So in the 59s, he set the bench press world record at 171. And since 2016 Worlds, no one's really been close to that. And Fedosienko, he really is a total specialist. Like, he held the squat, bench, and deadlift world records for an extended amount of time in all 3 disciplines. Still holds the squat world record, which you saw earlier on this list, and still holds the bench press world record, obviously. This is probably the one single lift that's the most impressive. Like, if you had to pick one lift from Fedo that's the most impressive, it's hard to pick because they're all just so good. But I would probably go with his bench press. No one's anywhere near, like, Waska at the moment is far and away the best bench presser in the 59s, while Fedo's been absent in the last few years. And even his best bench is like high 140s, 150, right? In training, I know he's in the 150s. That's still quite a long way off 171. And elbow depth wasn't even an issue for Fedo here. Like, yes, he has a small range of motion and a wide grip, right? And a short wingspan, so range of motion small. But his elbows were way below his shoulders if you see the bottom position. So, yeah. Although Fedo does seem to have lost quite a bit of bench press strength. I believe at Asians he benched 155 or 157.5, I want to say. So he's probably at a slightly more similar level to Waska, maybe slightly more. So he appears to have lost his bench. So if Fedo's bench has kind of dropped, no one else is anywhere near that. I anticipate that's going to stay for a long time yet to come. And equal first to that is Sergey Fedosienko's total world record. So his best ever total at an international IPF stage was 2016 Worlds, 669.5 kilos, and this was the famous number that Waska was chasing 95% off these last few years to make it to Sheffield, and he finally achieved that at Worlds this year. to make it to Sheffield. And in training, I believe Waska's come relatively close to that, only like 10 kilos or so off. So we'll see if he's able to threaten that at Sheffield. But honestly, if I was a betting man, I would bet no. As much as I like Waska and I think he's an amazing athlete and what he's doing to the 59s is huge, I just think he's not quite at that level yet to beat Fedo's total. I do think he would beat Fedo head to head though, because Fedo totaled, what did he total? 625 at Asian Championships just a few months ago. So yeah, he appears to have dropped quite a bit. I don't think Fedo will break his own record. I think Waska will break this. I don't think it'll be at Sheffield this year. I think next year Waska will be able to break this record though. And finally, equal first to that, and the last record we're looking at is Dennis Cornelius's total world record that he set, also 2016 Worlds, with 978.5 kilos. So, funnily enough, there were only 2 total world records on this list, and both were equal first with Fedosienko and Dennis Cornelius. That's kind of cool. But yeah, this has stood for ages. And since Dennis Cornelius kind of left the IPF side and left powerlifting a few years after that, the closest we've seen to this is, I mean, obviously Tony Cliff has been around the 950 mark, which is still over 20 kilos off. Bob Matthews matched this total at PA NAS to qualify for Worlds in 2024. And then at Worlds in 2024, he did 970. So he came close, but not quite 978.5. Obviously, Bob's not doing Sheffield for the weirdest reasons. And apart from Bob, there's not really. I mean, Etienne, who came silver at Worlds 2024, potentially could be a threat for this because he's fresh out the juniors, still getting better, world record deadlifter. And then Rondell obviously is the other big threat. Whenever Rondell finally finds his way to an international platform, he's going to absolutely demolish his world record because Rondell's best numbers is 10:45. So he's 70 kilos above this record, which is crazy because this record is way above what everyone else is. Shows how much of an outlier Rondell is. But yeah, I can't wait for Rondell to finally make it on an international platform to be able to beat this long-standing record number. But yeah, as soon as Rondell, this record will stand until Rondell makes his way onto an international stage, or until Bob breaks it. I believe Bob will break it at Worlds this year. I think he will, because Bob's not going to Sheffield, obviously, so the only chance he's going to get to compete internationally to break this record will be at Worlds. I believe he'll be able to do it. I thought he could do it last year. Didn't put necessarily his best numbers at Worlds, played it a bit safer, which is fair enough for his first world title, but I think this year that record is going to fall. But there you have it, the longest standing IPF world records in powerlifting. We shall see how much of these still stand come Sheffield, or if any of these will be broken come Sheffield. That will be very exciting to see.